Hey guys, welcome to
Hey,
the Front Runners Pod. We're remote, trying something a little new here. I'm here with Patches. Patches, what's up, buddy?
what up, though?
Going.
I'm chilling, man. How about you, baby?
I can't complain. If I complain, nobody would listen to me.
No, hell
Um,
no.
we come to you remotely. We're zooming it like a lot of people are. Obviously, we've been off for a few weeks with the show, but a lot of things going on actually. We got the draft coming up. We've got the Last Dance that happened that dropped on ESPN with the Bulls, and Pat and I wanted to take this time to get a show up and talk about it, man.
Hell yeah.
So really excited. We may end up doing this format moving forward, but for now, we want to bring our viewers and listeners in on some of the things that we think are pretty important to talk about. So
Feels good to be back.
It does. It does feel good to be back. It actually feels good to have some sports to talk about. It's not our traditional 10-piece. Obviously, there isn't enough to talk about in that regard. But
No, but it's draft week, baby. For us Lions fans, this is our Super Bowl.
Or our toilet bowl, depending
Or our toilet bowl.
depending on how you look at it. But we're going to get into our mock draft. We're going to go into our round one mock draft later on in the show. But I want to start the show with a recap of The Last Dance. But for those that don't know, ESPN has released a 10-part series about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, highlighting the last year of their second three-peat, heading into their sixth championship. Footage was sat on by Michael Jordan for a very long time, and a few years ago he decided, you know what, let's start to put pen to paper and start to create this documentary. And first two episodes were aired this past Sunday, and Pat and I want to spend a little bit of time kind of giving you our thoughts about that. So Patches, I'm going to I'll give you the floor. What was your initial reaction to the first two episodes of The Last Dance?
Initial reaction was just like, man, wow. A lot of things that they touched on already in the first two episodes. That I was young. We were relatively young. I was more of just a Detroit sports guy when I was around that age. But like some of the things that they highlighted, one that stuck out to me the most was the Jerry Krause situation that they had.
Yeah.
And how players were just openly disrespect him to his face. And he couldn't do anything about it. It was like uncomfortable to watch some of those scenes.
It's kind of awkward,
what I mean?
I think.
Yeah, very awkward. The amount of drama that the Bulls had surrounding them in that season, and that was just the beginning of it.
Yeah.
For that season, and for them to, bring that full circle and complete the mission. And I thought it was cool that Phil Jackson, after signing that 1-year extension, and coming to the team and having that team meeting and calling it The Last Dance, and that's where they got the title from. I thought that was cool. The one thing that, other than the Jerry Krause thing, that stuck out to me the most was the Scottie Pippen situation.
Yeah, that wasn't something that I really had a lot of information on. I didn't really know a lot of that stuff behind closed doors was going on.
7 years, $18 million, and never renegotiated. Like, man, talk about underpaid. I don't think I can even think of a player now or in my lifetime that was underappreciated and underpaid the way Scottie Pippen was.
So I saw a pretty interesting statistic. I think it was Monday. At the time he was getting paid that contract, he was the 122nd highest paid player in the NBA, right? At that time.
Unbelievable.
And then he was either first or second in every major statistical category for the Bulls. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know who the 122nd highest paid player is in the NBA right now?
Kid from the Thunder. I saw that. Robertson?
Andre Roberson.
Yeah, Roberson. Yeah.
So that kind of goes to show you how things have changed and how ridiculously and comically underpaid he was.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think for me, That was one of the big things that stuck out to me is that, when you do a little bit more research and identify, hey, this guy is, I mean, at the time he was probably a top 5 player in the league. You know what I mean?
Easily.
And for him to be
Bulls
paid,
don't,
for him to be paid $2 million a year, or whatever the math is crazy. For me,
I'm not going to say he was. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say he was just as important as Jordan to that team, but he was very, very valuable to that team, and what he brought to the Bulls during those championship runs.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
And like you said, he was number 2 in every single statistical category behind Jordan.
Yeah, and I think that a couple of other things that I think really stuck out to me was initially, like towards the beginning of it, where you had a couple people that were kind of out there saying, well, he may not carry a team. Like I remember Walt Frazier was specifically saying that he didn't think that he could carry a team. I think Mark Eaton was another guy that had mentioned that he, one guy can't run a team and this, that, the other thing. Yeah. So I found that kind of interesting. I found it kind of ironic that it was a lot of big men that were kind of talking him down. Which was
cool. That was really interesting. It was all big men, pretty much.
Yeah, it was. Couple of things that I found pretty cool were when he first got to Chicago, super humble dude.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that he had to earn his stripes. He was lowest on the totem pole, and he was really, he was really a rookie, obviously, and he didn't go in thinking that he was, top dog. He had to go and earn his stripes, and obviously, I forgot who it was that was being interviewed, but they had mentioned something about 2 weeks into that season, everybody knew that Jordan was the best player on that team. So for everybody around him to know that he was the best player on the team, and then for Jordan to have the mentality of him having to go in and earn his stripes and start from the bottom, I thought was very interesting. I thought that was a pretty interesting backstory. One of the things that really gave me chills was when he said that he felt unleashed going into the playoffs against Boston.
Yeah.
With his minutes restriction, with his foot injury,
coming off of that,
and having to come off of that, and then you score 49 points in game 1, you set a record with 63 points in game 2. Obviously, you lose the series, but having this young Thundercat go up against all these Hall of Famers, this monster team in the Celtics, was pretty cool to see. And I've seen highlights, over the years of him playing against the Celtics, but to hear the commentary, to hear the backstory behind all that, I thought was really, really cool. I'm so excited to see what happens over these next.
Me too, man.
Weeks. What are some things that you're interested in seeing? Like I know obviously they touched on Jordan, they touched on Cross a little bit. What are some storylines you are interested in looking into throughout the rest of the series?
For the previews that they showed for the upcoming 3 and 4, the whole Rodman to me is one of the more interesting players to ever play the game. Obviously, starting his career here, Rodman was beloved. Jersey retired here and everything. So I'm very interested and excited for the next episode for them to touch on Rodman, and I believe if they're going accordingly with the timeline jumping back and forth, he's going to run into the bad boys. So very, very excited for that, for the bad boys part.
I'm psyched for the bad boy stuff too. I'd be interested to see how they're portrayed in this documentary.
Yep.
Something tells me they won't be portrayed very positively.
No.
Which is going to piss a lot of us off, obviously.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be pretty fun for me to watch. Obviously, with us being from Detroit, it's going to be cool to see how they're portrayed outside of Detroit, because obviously this is a much more national and global documentary, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to be portrayed a certain way, I think it'd be pretty interesting for us to see.
ESPN had the highest ratings.
Yeah,
for documentaries. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of sense for them to release it, a couple months earlier. They were going to release it in June, and with everything going on, a lot more people staying home. I figured, you know what, the hell, let's release it in April, and I have no complaints
Smart.
with it. Yeah, I've got no complaints whatsoever. I thought it was a smart move, and we've got something to definitely watch over the next 4 Sundays. Heading into these next 4 weeks or so. I want to shift into some football a little bit. Like you mentioned, we got the draft coming up tomorrow. And we're going to give you our first round mock. We're going to go draft by, pick by pick, and let you know who we think is going to go in the first round tomorrow. But before we get into the mock draft, I want to get into some news that dropped yesterday out of New England and Tampa Bay. Didn't really see this coming, and Brady has been reunited. Yeah, right there, buddy?
I was trying something out real quick. I didn't know that was going to happen. That was really stupid. Because okay. I have this. Usually, this is my text tone.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I like that.
So I'm gonna keep it on that.
I like that.
How did that sound? Did it sound good coming through?
Sounded sweet.
All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that for each one of my picks.
I like that. So back to what we were talking about. Patriots and Bucks swing a deal. Rob Gronkowski comes out of retirement, gets shipped to the Bucks with a 7th.
I thought it was a hoax.
I thought it was too. I thought it was
I thought it was a hoax.
No. New England gets a 4th round pick back in return. Gronk's got 1 year left on his deal at $10 million. But biggest story is that he gets reunited with his boy Brady down in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Patch's instant reaction, man. What do you make of this deal?
Instant reaction. Obviously, I thought it was BS. Until reports came through from Schefter and all the guys, and I was just like, wow, they're going all in.
Yeah.
Brady's all in, Gronk's all in. Obviously, Tampa Bay's all in if they pulled the trigger on guy like Gronk who's been out of the game for a year. It could be a good thing for Gronk that he was away for a year for his body to heal up.
Yeah.
The guy's been beaten up the past couple of years before he retired. With a number of injuries to his back, his legs, his arm, whatever. But you get Gronk for 16 games and you get a healthy Gronk in the playoffs, that offense is going to be very, very scary. As long as they protect Brady and keep Brady upright and give him time to throw the ball, this is going to be a high-powered offense through the air.
You bring up a good point about his health. I don't know how super healthy he is. I mean, if you look at him in the offseason, he's dropped a lot of weight. You know what I mean? And that might help him day to day, just living his life, not being that heavy, taking that pressure off his joints and stuff like that. He's going to have to bulk up a little bit in order to play tight end. You know what I mean? So I don't know if we're going to get a full 16 games of the Gronk that we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point with the playoffs. Right? You may have him start off a little slowly heading into that first season. And then as soon as that second half of the season ramps up, maybe after the bye week, depending on what their schedule looks like, you may start to see them ramp him up a little bit more. And then you may see the Gronk of old later in the season into the playoffs to make a playoff push.
It makes sense to put him on like a plays restriction, certain amount of plays for a game.
Snap count.
The first maybe 8, half the season. That would make the most sense for them.
I think so too. But it's another weapon for Brady, man, and it's another weapon that he's obviously super accustomed to. It's one thing to bring it's one thing to bring him, onto a team that has great weapons, Godwin, Evans, O.J. Howard, guys like that.
Yep.
But then you bring a guy that he's won Super Bowls with, that he's made a lot of big-time plays with, scored a lot of touchdowns with. That's going to help him. And I think, like you said, if they keep him upright, they keep him healthy, the trust factor there. I think it's a huge deal. I don't think they give up very much. Maybe they restructure his contract as well. But, a 1-year flyer on one of the best tight ends to ever play the game, I think why not?
You're already all in on Brady. You know what I mean? You got 1 or 2 years. You got a 1-2 year window. And why not go all in for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much that shakes up the draft with them, but I I want to get right into this first round mock, man. We got the draft coming up Thursday night. Obviously, it's going to be a little different than we've had in drafts past. It's actually going to be similar to the same format that we're talking about. So it's all going to be virtual. It's all going to be digital. So what Patches and I are going to do is we're going to go through our first round mock, pick by pick, quick analysis of why we think that player is going there. We didn't necessarily do trades here because obviously we can't predict that. But, Patches, if you feel like there's a trade that's going to go down, you let me know, man. I think that there may be some activity there, and I wouldn't be surprised if some trades happen. But let's get right into it, man. Let's start with the number 1 overall pick, Bengals. Who do you have going there first? Big surprises or?
With the first pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking Joseph Burrow, quarterback out of LSU. Kind of a no-brainer here. Bengals need a quarterback. Bengals need a fresh start at that position. And Burrow just makes the most sense. He checks all the boxes. Guy was just had a phenomenal season this past season. And I feel like he's a quarterback that has a ceiling. If you put the right players in front of him, you got the whole franchise behind him. He can do really well in the NFL.
I think this is the biggest no-brainer in the draft. I don't see any reason why Burrow goes anywhere other than the first overall pick. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this. I think this is a no-brainer. I think you hit on all the points. I think he's their guy. He's the franchise. He's the fresh start that everybody's looking for. I think that he checks all the boxes. I think he goes number 1. Moving on to number 2, Washington Redskins. Who do you have going there?
The second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State.
Okay.
If you're talking about just overall prospects in this draft, I think Chase Young is the best player that's in this draft. Another guy that checks all the boxes, athletic, freakishly enormous, just made to play defensive end in the NFL. Kind of a no-brainer for Washington, unless I feel like there's going to be trades in the top 5. I don't know if anybody's going to trade for the number 2 pick. If you're going to want to get into that number 2 spot, you're going to have to give up a king's ransom to have Washington pass up on Chase Young. So I think the pick is Chase Young, and Washington's going to be happy with their pick.
I think they go with Chase Young as well. I think they ignore all the draft trade scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's too good to pass up, man.
Yeah,
and it's not like they're not dying for a quarterback. They have Dwayne Haskins. They took last year. You kind of have to. You got to see what you have in Dwayne Haskins. The guy was a first round pick, so I think they end up going with Chase Young. I think they bookend their defensive line. You're going to have one of the best defensive lines in football with Chase Young and the rest of those guys there. And you got to see what happens with a guy like Dwayne Haskins. I don't think they take a quarterback. I don't think they trade out of that number 2 pick. I think Chase Young ends up going to the Redskins. Let's move on to pick number 3. Our Detroit Lions. You're wearing their hat.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to draft you with the 3rd overall pick?
Man, I wish. I'm past my prime though.
Yeah, a little bit.
The pick is in for the Detroit Lions, and if they don't move out of this pick, I believe that they're going to be taking Jeffrey Okudah. I think Okudah's the pick. I think outside of the quarterbacks that are there, Okudah is the next prospect up that has the biggest ceiling. I was debating back and forth between him and Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons is just a freak athlete. Doesn't, like we touched about it a few times. You don't really know what position the guy's going to play in the NFL. He could be one of those guys that's going to struggle to find a fit. But I feel like Okudah is going to be the pick here if the Lions are unable to move back. I mean, I would love for them to move back and accumulate some draft picks because we have a lot of needs. I could see a situation where Miami or the Chargers jump in. There was a couple scenarios that had the Chargers trading up to number 3 and giving us a few picks, 6 and their second round, a third round next year, and Desmond King, I want to say it was the corner that they have. 25-year-old corner, all pro 2 years ago. I think at 6 you'd still have a shot at Okudah, depending on what the Giants do, because Miami's going to take a quarterback at 5. So it makes sense for them. It makes too much sense for the Lions to try to trade back.
I think their best case scenario, if they don't take Tua, which I've been a Tua guy since day one. I think they should take the third pick. That looks more and more like a pipe dream at this point. Mm-hmm. So I probably don't have a choice but to look past that.
Yeah.
The next best case scenario is for them to trade out. If they trade out and they trade with, let's say, the Chargers or the Dolphins or the Jags or the Panthers or any of these teams that are looking for a quarterback, they can still get Jeff Okudah at 5, 6, 7, whatever the case may be. Yeah. I'd be happy with that. I still think that they take Okudah 3rd overall, and I'm not a fan of that just because I don't think the value is there for a cornerback at 3.
Yeah.
So I still think one way or another they're going to end up with Okudah. I'm not a fan of them taking Okudah if they don't trade back. If they take him just flat out take him at 3, I think it's a bad pick. I do think that he can come in and step in right away and be a productive player, but is he the game changer, the transcendent player that you take that high in the draft? Is he a franchise-altering player? No, I don't think he is. Is he Deion Sanders? No. Is he Jalen Ramsey? Who knows? Yeah. But I think if you take a guy that high, he better damn well be that good.
Exactly. That's the ceiling.
Yeah, that's the expectation. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're going to shy away from taking a quarterback or Tua specifically, that's you may end up taking either him or Isaiah Simmons. I think naturally, Okudah's a better fit. But again, if you can get him at 5 or 6 and accumulate other picks, I think that's the best move.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to end up making a move. So if they just flat out take him at 3, like I said, I don't think it's a great pick. But I think they end up with Okudah one way or another.
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 4. You just mentioned it, New York Giants. They've got the 4th overall pick in the draft. What do you see them doing there?
With the 4th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Giants taking Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson. Giants have needs all over the defensive side of the ball, and why not take a player that you can plug and play at pretty much any position on the defense? Just makes sense for them. He's the best player on the board for them. I can't see them taking a quarterback after taking Daniel Jones. Even though there was rumors of new head coach having meetings with Herbert and whatnot. I think it's just smoke and mirrors. I think they're going to take the best defensive player available on the board.
See, I have them going offense. I have them taking Tristan Wirfs. I have them going offensive line. And I think it's important for them to focus on the strengths of their offense, right? Daniel Jones, you got to keep him upright, keep him healthy. Saquon Barkley had a good sophomore season, obviously not as electrifying, I think, as his rookie year. Obviously, he was a little banged up. So I think you've got to give your 2 most important players every opportunity to be successful. And Tristan Wirfs is a guy that come in, you plug him in right away, day 1 starter, bookend. And he's a guy that can help that offensive line tremendously and, more importantly, help Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I wouldn't be surprised they took Isaiah Simmons because, to your point, they've got a lot of needs defensively, and he checks a lot of boxes. But if I'm building that team, I need to be able to protect Daniel Jones and create opportunities for Saquon Barkley. And I think Tristan Wirfs is going to be able to do that for both players. So I think they go offensive line again. I wouldn't be surprised if they went Isaiah Simmons. Let's move on to number 5, Miami Dolphins. I know there's been a lot of buzz there. What do you see them doing with the 5th pick?
A lot of buzz. with all the rumors swirling about Tua, not being as healthy as people think he's going to be with the amount of surgeries that he's had and so on and so forth. I see the Dolphins playing it safe and taking Justin Herbert, quarterback out of Oregon.
Wow.
I like it. It's he's moved up a lot of people's draft boards, had a fantastic combine. He's checked some boxes. The guy's big, he's athletic, he's got an arm. I mean, I think he's the safe pick for the Dolphins.
See, I still think they go Tua. I don't know why. I just I get the feeling they're going to go Tua. I really don't have a rhyme or reason for it. I know there's been a lot of rumors floating around that Justin Herbert's been flying up draft boards. I just look at a guy like Tua, and had he not gotten hurt, he would have been the number one overall pick in this draft.
Yes.
Tank for Tua. You had teams last year, Miami included, that were tanking for Tua. And obviously he has the hip injury, right? He's got the injury history. But everybody that's talked about Tua from a medical standpoint is cleared him. Doctors have cleared him. He's fully healthy. You look at it from that standpoint. If he's fully healthy, he's a better quarterback than Justin Herbert.
Everybody in this draft.
And everybody else in the draft. He's a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. He's a better quarterback than Justin Herbert. He's a better quarterback than Jordan Love. All these guys. So I look at it from that perspective, and I think Miami is going to make the decision to take Tua. If I were them, I would take Tua over anybody in this draft. Obviously Joe Burrow's not going to be available at this point, but assuming Burrow goes number one, which I think we both think is going to happen, Tua is going to be the best quarterback available based on my calculations, and I think Miami would be better served going with Tua. So I think they still go Tua. That's what I would do if I were in that position. Let's move on to number 6, LA Chargers. They moved on from Phillip Rivers after 100 years of service with him. They're in need of a quarterback. What do you see them doing with the number 6 pick?
The pick is in. With the 6th pick in this year's 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Los Angeles Chargers with their new badass unis. Did you see those?
Yeah, I like those.
Fire.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
I see them taking Tua.
Okay.
I think this one makes the most sense because I think I have a feeling that the whole Cam Newton thing is going to unfold soon, and I think the Chargers are going to go in on Cam, maybe on a 1-year deal, sit Tua, have him sit behind Cam, bring him in for 1 year. It makes sense, especially if Tua's on the board. They have to take a quarterback for the future.
I agree with you. I think it ends up being Justin Herbert. Herbert's been linked to the Chargers almost since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's right now, because of Tua, even though he's 100% healthy, I don't know if you unleash him as a day one starter the way that you would a guy like Burrow or a guy like Justin Herbert. So I think they end up going with Justin Herbert. Again, I think it makes the most sense. He's a West Coast kid. He plays at Oregon, specific guy. I don't know if I buy into the Cam Newton hype, because I don't really think Cam Newton's been linked to the Chargers in any capacity. Additionally, I'm not sure if Cam is the kind of guy that would take a 1-year prove-it deal. You see all these videos on the social media, him working out, him getting stronger, and him getting into football shape. I think he's looking for a longer-term deal, because I think he still thinks of himself as being an elite quarterback, which he very well could be. But I don't know if the Chargers look at him in the same way. So I think they end up going with Herbert, and I think they make him the day one starter right off the bat.
I think Cam has to get out of that mindset, because nobody's been able to bring him in for a visit.
Mm-hmm.
They're not seeing his workouts in person. Hasn't taken any physicals. So I think he's going to have no choice but to sign a prove-it deal to a team and to prove that he's healthy. And what better situation to go to than the Chargers? Chargers have some players there with a healthy Cam. I mean, you're talking about a potential playoff team easily.
Sure.
You know.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, I don't know if he's the best fit there. I think they just go with Herbert and just toss him in from day one.
Yeah.
Either that or they go with another bridge quarterback that isn't Cam. You know, you get him on a 1 year, you get somebody else on a 1 year deal. I don't know who that could be off the top of my head, but I still think Herbert's the pick. Let's move on to number 7, Cam's former team. Nice segue there. Carolina Panthers. They've got the 7th pick in the draft. Who do you think they go with?
The pick is in. With the 7th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Derek Brown, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Big, huge, hole-plugging defensive tackle.
That is a large human being.
Very large human being. Got him listed at around 330, which probably means he's closer to 350. Big dude. Didn't have the greatest combine. You know, before the combine, they were talking about him being a top 3, top 5 pick. Really was unimpressed with his combine. But regardless, Carolina needs defensive line help. They need to stop the run, and this one makes the most sense for them.
I agree. I think they take Derek Brown with the 7th pick. I thought about them taking Isaiah Simmons here, but I think Derek Brown's a better fit because of their defensive line needs. And again, he's a plug and play guy. Day one, go in and plug that defensive line up. So I think you and I are in agreement. I think Derek Brown's a pick at number 7. Moving on to number 8, Arizona Cardinals. Who do we have going there with the 8th overall pick?
The pick is in. The Arizona Cardinals select Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle out of Iowa. Need to protect Kyler Murray. Offensive tackle is the move here. Wirfs is a big dude, long arm, quick feet. He's got everything to be a top 10 pick, plug and play guy. Not a sexy pick for the Cardinals, but they need it.
See, I also have them going offensive line. I had Tristan Wirfs going 4th to the Giants. So I have them taking Jedrick Wills, offensive lineman from Alabama. Again, I think you and I are in agreement. You've got to protect Kyler Murray. You've got to give him every opportunity to stay healthy and make plays.
Yeah.
And I think you take the next best offensive lineman on the board, and I think that's Jedrick Wills. So I think that's a no-brainer there. Moving on to number 9, Jacksonville Jaguars with the 9th overall pick. What do you see them doing there?
Jags need offensive help. I mean, outside of Leonard Fournette, I don't know who their skill position players are. I have them taking Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver out of Bama.
Okay.
Yep. Makes the most sense for them. Get some skill players. If they're really gonna go in on Minshew mania, they need to get them some weapons. Saw that report earlier this week that said that Fournette could be on the block. So I don't know what direction that team is going, but they need some offensive help. And Jerry Jeudy checks the box for them.
I think this is where Isaiah Simmons comes off the board. And I know it seems crazy for Simmons to go 9th in this draft, considering he could go as high as 3.
Yeah.
But, when you look at the way that, like, my draft was designed, you've got teams that desperately need offensive line help to protect their franchise quarterbacks, and you have 2 teams that need franchise quarterbacks. I look at a team like Jacksonville that's lost so much on the defensive side of the ball over the last couple of years. Boye, you've got Jalen Ramsey, you've got Calais Campbell, you got all these guys that have been that have departed from Jacksonville. And although I agree with you about them getting Gardner Minshew some help, I think they're going to look at a guy like Isaiah Simmons as their next defensive anchor that's just too good to pass up in the draft. So I don't see him slipping outside of the top 10. So I think Isaiah Simmons is the pick at 9. I don't know if he's going to slip to 9, let alone outside of the top 10. But I think if he's there, I think Jacksonville would be crazy to pass up on him. So I think Isaiah Simmons will get going 9 to Jacksonville. Moving on to number 10, Cleveland Browns team.
Your Brownies.
I had a lot of high hopes for this team,
Mm-hmm.
and they let me down.
The pick is in.
They got the 10th pick in the draft.
The Browns select Mekhi Becton. Hope I said that right. Offensive tackle out of Louisville. Gaping hole at left tackle for them. I know they signed Conklin in the offseason. Conklin's more of a right tackle fit. This pick makes sense. They have playmakers everywhere on offense, but they need to keep Baker Mayfield upright and limit this guy's mistakes, his fumbles, his picks. You go into the season with Becton and Conklin as your tackles. There's no excuse for Baker and the Browns this upcoming season.
I agree with the Becton pick. I've got Becton going 10 to the Browns as well.
Yeah.
Do you know that he's 6'7", 364, and ran up 5'140"?
Yeah, he's a massive human being that has wheels.
That is nuts. His 40 performance was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think you hit it right on the head. I think Cleveland needs a lot of help on the offensive line. They address it to some extent with Jack Conklin. I think they bookend that with a guy like Mekhi Becton. You give Baker Mayfield the opportunity to stay healthy, make plays, use his athleticism to get out of the pocket, extend plays, get the ball to his playmakers, continue to run the ball effectively with Nick Chubb. Side note on the Browns, though. Do you see them getting rid of Odell Beckham? What do you think's going to happen with Beckham, man? There was a rumor floating around that he could be going to Minnesota. What do you think there?
I don't know. Would I be surprised? No.
Mm-hmm.
Just because just his Odell's history, just not fitting in a locker room. I don't know when this guy's going to get it together. He's such a talent. And for there to be rumors like this all the time about him, teams moving on from him, mm-hmm. it's sad, it's like wasting talent.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I hope he gets his act together because I think he could do really big things with
man.
Cleveland. They got a lot of firepower, and he's a big part of that. But with the rumors floating around, it wouldn't surprise me that he got dealt. Let's move into the 11th pick in the draft. Got the Jets. They need a lot of help all over the place. What do you see them doing?
They really do. Pick is in. I got the Jets taking Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle out of Bama. Like you said, they have many holes. This is their chance to fill a big hole that they have on the offensive line. Keep Darnold upright, for the future.
I think you've got to get Darnold some help, and that means weapons on the outside. I think you start to see the wide receivers get taken off the board a little bit. I think the pick is CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb's the first wide receiver taken off the board, and I think he goes 11 to the Jets. I think he's got all of them. He's got all the strengths you need in a number one wide receiver: size, speed, strength, route running skills, footwork, hands, the whole thing. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think you need all the weapons in the world for a guy like Sam Darnold to be successful. I think CeeDee Lamb is the pick at 11. Number 12, Raiders going into Vegas, new stadium. All that stuff. Where do you see them going?
Oh, pick is in, Norm.
Oh, all right. Pick is in.
Raiders are going C.J. Henderson, quarterback out of Florida. Could use some defensive help, especially in the secondary. Had one of the worst pass defenses last year. I think Henderson's going to be the second cornerback off the board, and he's going to be a Raider.
See, I think the wide receivers are going to start to fly off the board. I think the Raiders need help offensively as well, just as bad defensively. And the Raiders have historically been a team that has been enamored with height, weight, speed guys, right? Just workout warriors, guys that are blazing fast, guys that kill the combine, things like that. And I look at a guy like Henry Ruggs that is ridiculously fast. He can take the top off of the defense. He's an awesome weapon. Made a ton of big plays at Alabama. I think he ends up going 12th to the Raiders. I think you get Derek Carr some help. I think you get some offensive weapons. Realistically, they picked up Antonio Brown with the intention of having him being their number one receiver. And when he left, you had a gaping hole at wide receiver. You know what I mean? And now you have the ability to draft a potential franchise wide receiver. And I think Henry Ruggs is a guy that checks a lot of boxes for them. And historically, because of the type of guys they've drafted in the past, I think Henry Ruggs definitely fits the bill for them at 12. Moving on to number 13, NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. They acquired this pick from Indianapolis
via trade
for DeForest Buckner. So for those of you that don't know how or why the reigning NFC champions are picking in the top half of the first round, that's why. Where do you see them going with the 13th pick, Pat?
All right. Niners lost Emmanuel Sanders. Outside of Deebo Samuel, they don't really have anybody else to step in at that wide receiver position outside, take some pressure off of George Kittle. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is the pick here. It's kind of a luxury pick. I know they got rid of DeForest Buckner, but NFC champions shouldn't be drafting at 13. Right. Why not take the best player available, CeeDee Lamb? Give Garoppolo another weapon on offense. Offense could look really scary with that running game. And you're talking about Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle. The Niners could be right back where they were last year.
So I agree with you. I think Jerry Jeudy's the pick, considering CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs are off the board. I think they do need some offensive help. Their defense is still pretty well stacked, even with them losing DeForest Buckner. So I think from that standpoint, if you've got to get Garoppolo some help, I think Jerry Jeudy's the pick. I think he, coming into the draft, he was without a doubt the number one wide receiver on a lot of people's boards. Not to say that he slipped dramatically, but I think CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs have definitely shortened the gap. With that said, I think Jerry Jeudy's a great fit in San Francisco. He checks all the boxes. He can run a lot of different routes. He kind of reminds me of Emmanuel Sanders in a sense. He's really versatile. He's strong. He's got some speed. He's got really good footwork. So I think Jeudy's a really good pick for the Niners, and he can help them offensively. Moving on to pick 14, Tampa Bay Bucks. He's made a ton of moves. That's what do they do there?
The pick is in, and Tampa Bay is going to do more to help Tom Brady. Why not help him by keeping him upright? Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia.
I'm in the same boat.
I like it.
Same boat. Yeah, I think it's. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep Brady upright. Andrew Thomas is a big guy. We can plug him right in. Made a lot of big plays at Georgia. 6'5", 315, big dude. I think for Tampa, you've got to do everything you can to keep Brady as healthy as possible and put him in the best position to make plays and get the ball downfield to a lot of these playmakers. So I'm definitely with you there. Moving on to number 15, Denver Broncos. Struggled the last couple of years. They need help in a lot of different areas. Where do you see them going with the 15th pick?
With the 15th pick, I gotta get my buzz in.
Come on, man. You need the buzz. There you go.
I need the buzz. All right. With the 15th pick, I have them selecting Justin Jefferson, wide receiver out of LSU. Denver needs some help offensively. I know there's been rumors of them trying to trade up. Obviously, we're not doing trades in our mock, but I feel like they're going to take a wide receiver, and Justin Jefferson is the pick here.
I like the Justin Jefferson pick as well. I actually have him going 15th with Denver also. Whoever the quarterback is going to be, whether it's Drew Lock or whether it's somebody else that they decide to go with, you're going to need weapons there. And with Courtland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton, you need a guy that can that can really be a number one. And I think Justin Jefferson for them is going to really fit the bill. So I like that. I like that for them as well. Moving on to number 16, Atlanta Falcons. Where do you see them going with the 16th pick?
Number 16 is in. With the 16th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Falcons selecting, I hope I say this right, Kalavan Chasen, outside linebacker, LSU.
Close enough.
Yeah, they lost quite a few players on defense this offseason. Especially at the linebacker position. Mm-hmm. This one fits the bill for them. Solid player. I see them going best available defense, and Chasen is the player there for them.
See, I like C.J. Henderson at that pick. Obviously, they lost Desmond Trufant to the Lions, so they're going to need some cornerback help. And I think if C.J. Henderson's still on the board, I think they go with Henderson to fill that void. Moving on to number 17, Dallas Cowboys, team that's had a lot of activity in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
A lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Still don't have their quarterback signed. Where do you see them going with the 17th overall pick?
I see them. Oh, pick is in. I see the Dallas Cowboys taking Xavier McKinney, safety out of Bama. Guy's a player. I mean, Bama is an NFL factory when it comes to defensive studs in the NFL. Cowboys have been rumored to been trying to trade for Jamal Adams, just trying to get a safety in. I think safety is the pick here for them, and I think McKinney's a plug and play guy on that defense.
I agree that they need defensive help. I see them going with Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman. I think that they're going to need to put pressure on a lot of these quarterbacks that play in the division: Carson Wentz, Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones. And I think they're really loaded at every other position, on their defense. And I think for a lot of teams these days, the best success is going to come from rushing the quarterback. And I think Dallas, over the last couple of years, has built a really, really strong defense. And I think they're going to add to that with a guy like Kinlaw to come in and rush the passer. Number 18, familiar face, Miami Dolphins, second first-round pick that they have in this year's draft. What do you see them going?
Via Pittsburgh.
Yep. That's a Minka Fitzpatrick deal.
Yep. Pick is in. With the 18th pick, I have them taking who you just mentioned, Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Makes sense for Miami. They have holes everywhere. Start filling them in on defense, and I think Kinlaw's a big guy that they can kind of like plug and play on that defensive line. They need help. Miami needs help everywhere. I mean, I know they signed a few guys in free agency, but they need to get young. They need to get young on that defensive line.
So I think the way that what I like to do is, like, if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, which with me, I think they're going to take Tua. You got to get him some help. You got to get him weapons. And for me, I think they are going to look at a guy like Laviska Shenault Jr., the wide receiver out of Colorado. Speedster, 5'8", 212, burner. Tua can get the ball downfield with the best of them. I think you need to get Tua some help on the offensive side of the ball. And I think if you end up taking a quarterback with the 5th pick, you got to get him some help, later on in that draft. So I think they address the wide receiver position because they don't really have a ton of playmakers on that side of the ball. So I think they go with the wide receiver. I think they take Shenault Jr. from Colorado. But I could easily see them taking somebody on the defensive side because, again, they do need some help, especially with them trading Minka Fitzpatrick. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think if you're gonna put Tua in the best position to win, you got to get him some help early on. And I think adjusting the wide receiver spot later on in the first round is going to be the way to do it. Moving on to number 19, Raiders. They got another first-round pick, 19th overall pick. Where do you see them going?
It's the 19th pick. This one's a what do you say? Like a little draft shocker, stunner.
Okay.
I have the Raiders going Jordan Love.
Whoa.
Quarterback, Utah State.
Wow.
Yeah, there's been talks that Raiders brought in Mariota. There's still talks that Carr is not the guy for Gruden. Why not bring in a guy like Jordan Love, have him sit a year and see what you got? You're gonna have three good quarterbacks on your roster. I feel like Carr will get moved at some point. Maybe before the deadline this year. Who knows? He could get moved on draft day. But I feel like the Raiders are going to move on from Derek Carr at some point, and they've accumulated some draft picks via trades, and they have an opportunity to select a franchise quarterback. Why not do it now?
See, I don't know if they move on from Derek Carr. I
like Derek Carr.
I do too, and I get the inclination that that John Gruden likes him too, and I don't know if they're going to make that drastic of a move going into a new stadium. They want to be competitive and moving to Vegas. I don't know if they want to make that drastic of a move going into a new stadium. They're going to need to be as competitive as possible. So I think they're going to stick with Derek Carr at least for this year. I think they need some defensive help. So I know you had K'Lavon Chaisson being taken earlier in your mock. I have him going 19th to the Raiders. I think they need some linebacker help. I think he's a great leader on and off the field, makes good decisions. He can be an anchor for their defense for years to come. And I think for them to, again, go into a new stadium, you need a sure thing. With a high draft pick like that, and I think Chaison's going to really give them that. So I think Chaison's going to be the pick for them at 19. We're in the 20s, coming home to the home stretch.
Yep.
Jacksonville Jaguars, another team that's got a second first-round pick this year. What do you see them going with the 20th pick?
Via Rams. Pick is in. With the 20th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Jags taking Kenneth Murray, linebacker out of Oklahoma. Jags need – I don't know what the Jags are doing. They're trading everybody. It looks like it's going to be a complete rebuild. Not a lot of those familiar faces on defense are there anymore. They're talking about trading. I can never pronounce his name.
Yannick.
Yannick. Yeah. So I feel like they're gonna take a defensive player here, and I like this one. I like him a lot. He's versatile. He's versatile to play any linebacker position. Athlete and a tackling machine, dude.
I like T. Higgins with this pick, man. You had him taking a wide receiver early on in this draft. I think that they definitely need some help offensively. T. Higgins is a guy 6'4", 216, playmaker out of Clemson, checks a lot of the boxes. You're gonna need to give Gardner Minshew some help. So you get him a big receiver that can make a lot of plays. I think he's a guy that can really come in and do some damage. Number 21, Eagles. What do you see?
Eagles are on, and the pick is in. That's quick. Philly's been rumored to be in the wide receiver market. I see them going wide receiver here. I like Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver out of Bama for them.
Okay. I had him going a little higher. I also have them taking a wide receiver. I have them taking Jalen Reagor from TCU.
Okay.
I think they're going to be a pretty decent amount of receivers being taken in this draft. And I think the most pressing need for Philadelphia is a wide receiver. They had a ton of injuries at the wide receiver spot. They lost Nelson Aguilar. Alshon Jeffrey's getting up there in age. Zach Ertz is getting up there in age. You need a guy that can go out there and make plays. And I think a guy like Jalen Reagor is going to be able to do that for them. Number 22, Minnesota Vikings. They had some changes in the offseason. Obviously, they got rid of Stephon Diggs and a bunch of guys on defense. Where do you see them going with the 22nd pick?
All right. The 22nd pick, Minnesota received from Buffalo in the Stephon Diggs trade. I have them taking Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Did you know that he's only 6 foot, right? But he's got an 81-inch wingspan, which is only –
So they're drafting a pterodactyl.
Exactly. He's only an inch behind Calvin Johnson, and Calvin was 6'5". You know what I mean? So the guy's an athlete, and Minnesota's looking to replace Stephon Diggs, get another player to play alongside Thielen. This is a perfect spot for them. They have another pick, a couple more picks later at 25. I think he's going to be a good complement to Thielen.
See, I think Jalen Johnson's going to be the pick for Minnesota. They lost Xavier Rhodes. They need some help defensively. I agree with you that wide receiver.
And they lost Trey Waynes.
I think that filling that cornerback spot is going to be a more pressing need. They can address that the other needs later on in the draft. But I think the most pressing need is going to be cornerback, and I think Jalen Johnson's going to be able to come in and you can really plug and play him. He's a real high end talent. And I think that's going to be a good pick for them at 22. Number 23, New England Patriots. They got a lot of needs, man. They got a lot of needs there.
They have a lot of needs. The pick is in. New England's not really known to have, to draft the sexy picks or offensive players in the first round. I have them taking Zach Baun, outside linebacker out of Wisconsin. I know their defense was a strength last year. It's going to be really tough to predict what Belichick is going to do, moving forward. But Baun was a good player last year, 12.5 sacks. Patriots lost Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins, and Landon Roberts in free agency. So this one's a kind of a glaring need outside of, obviously the quarterback position. Don't see them taking a quarterback here. I think Baun's going to be the pick.
I actually see them taking quarterback.
Yeah?
I see them go. I think Jordan Love's the pick.
Okay.
I think they go Jordan Love. I think Belichick's going to deviate a little bit from what he's done in the past just because of what's happened with Brady. And I think the advantage that New England has had in these last, handful of years is that they can rely on Brady to mask some of the deficiencies that they have. You know what I mean? Like it's rare that they have a bunch of offensive talent, right? They've always got a good defense. I think this is going to be the year that Belichick looks and says, well, you know what? Maybe this is a year that I invest a high draft pick in a franchise quarterback. Mm-hmm. This is as good a year as ever to do it. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I know Jordan Love has gotten comparisons to Pat Mahomes. Obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen there, but he's a super athletic guy, cannon arm, smart kid. He could be the next franchise quarterback, and I think that's a good opportunity for New England to really kind of set the table and kind of reset the deck in a sense.
Yeah.
Continue to rely on their defense and build around a guy like Jordan Love. Just kind of see what you have in him. But I think Jordan Love is going to be the pick there at 23. That's my inclination.
Yeah.
Moving on to 24, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Brees is coming back, and what do you see them doing there at number 24?
And the pick is in. At 24, I have the New Orleans Saints taking A.J. Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. I don't know. It's hard. It was hard for me to pick this one, just because they're stacked. The Saints are stacked almost everywhere, and this one is he ran a 4.42. One of the top rated corners in this draft. He's definitely an upgrade at the cornerback position for them to play alongside what's his face? God, I always forget his name. Lattimore.
Yeah. I think they address the defense. I think they go with Patrick Queen, linebacker from LSU. I think he fits a lot of what they're trying to do. They need a guy that can go back and forth, sideline to sideline. And it just adds to their defense overall. They've got a ton of offensive weapons. Obviously, I thought that they were going to go wide receiver in the first round, but obviously they signed Emmanuel Sanders, so you kind of had that taken care of there. I think they addressed the defense. I think Pat Queen is going to be the pick at 24. It shorts up their linebacking core for New Orleans. Number 25, towards the end of this first round, we got the Minnesota Vikings, another pick in the first round. What do you think they go there?
The Vikings, I have them taking Jalen Johnson. I know you had him going off the board earlier. Cornerback out of Utah. Like you said, they lost Xavier Rose, Trey Waynes. This one makes sense for them to fill a huge need that they have at corner. Jalen Johnson, stud, plug and play guy.
I have them going to Yetur Gross-Matos, D-line from Penn State. Again, they lost Everson Griffin. They addressed the loss of Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes earlier on in the draft with them taking Jalen Johnson. I think they need some defensive line help. I think Gross-Matos is going to be able to come in and fill that void for them at 25. 26, Miami Dolphins. Here we go again.
Miami Dolphins. I have them taking a familiar name, but throwing a junior on the end of it. Antoine Winfield, Jr., safety out of Minnesota.
Son of former defensive back for the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think Miami, like you said earlier, they lost Minkah Fitzpatrick. This is the last of their first round picks. This one's they need a guy on the back end of that defense, and I think Winfield's the guy to fill that hole.
I think this is where the first running back in the draft will go.
Wow.
Again, going back to my point earlier, if you're going to invest in Tua or if you're going to invest in any quarterback, you got to get him weapons. Saw him taking a wide receiver with their second first-round pick. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be the pick here.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor is a 3-down back. He's a workhorse. He is super athletic, super strong. He can make all the plays. He's a guy that can take some pressure off your quarterback. He'll instantly be the best running back on that team. And
easily.
Again, I think you have a lot of offensive weapons, a lot of fresh faces, a lot of young talent. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be the pick at 26 for the Dolphins, and you come away with a number one receiver potentially, stud running back, and a franchise-altering quarterback. You could easily see Miami winning this draft in the first round with these three picks.
For sure.
Easily. So I think if I were them, I would definitely go with Jonathan Taylor at the back end of the first round. Let's close it out. Getting closer to the end of the first round, number 27, Seattle Seahawks. Where do you see them going there?
Seattle Seahawks. I have them taking a guy in our backyard, Cesar Ruiz, offensive lineman, guard, center. Seattle's been a run-first team, and they need an upgrade. They need an upgrade at guard. Many have Ruiz as the top-ranked interior lineman in this draft, but he's athletic to play either the center or guard spot. So, good value here for the Seahawks.
I like Ross Blacklock, defensive lineman from TCU. They're going to lose Jadeveon Clowney. It doesn't seem like they're going to come to a deal. So you're going to need a replacement for him. And I think Blacklock stepping in, and really taking over the Jadeveon Clowney role, I think they kind of pick up right where they leave off, and they continue to shore up that defensive line. So I think Blacklock's going to be the pick to replace Clowney. Number 28, Baltimore Ravens. Bounced out of the playoffs a little earlier than we thought, but they've got the 28th overall pick in the draft. Where do you see them going?
Initially I had them taking defensive line, but then I remembered that they, acquired Calais Campbell. They signed Derek Wolfe. They still haven't replaced C.J. Mosley. So right now I have Patrick Queen, inside linebacker for LSU.
Okay.
Fills a need. Upgrades that linebacking core. He's a run and hit linebacker, kind of a leader guy on that LSU defense. Fits the mold for a Harbaugh team.
So I've got them going with Zach Bond. So you and I are in the same boat. It's just I had him going a little earlier in the draft, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Zach Bond, linebacker from Wisconsin. I think again he can step right in and be a day one starter to replace C.J. Mosley, which I think they've had an issue doing over the last couple of years. So I like a linebacker position for them. Number 29, Tennessee Titans. Almost got to the Super Bowl.
Almost, man. You mentioned this guy earlier, Gross Matos, defensive end out of Penn State. They added Vic Beasley Jr. on a one-year deal in free agency, but I think they still need somebody to look at, to get younger on that defensive line, especially at the end position. He can play either the outside linebacker or defensive end. The guy's he's very versatile player for them. I think Vrabel will know what to do with him.
Yeah, I think they address their defense. I think it's more of a cornerback pick, though. I like Jeff Gladney, man. I like them. I like him from where did he go? He went to TCU. You saw them get cooked, and that's against KC in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And I think them, along with really every team in the league, could use cornerback depth. They're pretty good. They're a really good defense. And for them to have have cornerback depth, they can play a little bit more nickel. They can cover a lot of these wide receivers that they play in the AFC. I think Gladney's going to be the pick in the first round for the Titans. Number 30, Green Bay Packers, our divisional foe. Where do you see them going in the first round?
Oh, we haven't had a chime. Sorry, pick is in. Packers, I think this one's very obvious here. Aaron Rodgers is, in the back end of his career. And when quarterbacks usually get on the back end of their career, you got to help them out offensively. T. Higgins, wide receiver out of Clemson. They really need a number 2 opposite of Devontae Adams, and it's been showing the past 2 years for them. I know they added Devin Funchess, but Higgins, I think Higgins, 6'3", big target, could be a nice complement to Devontae Adams and adding a piece for Aaron Rodgers in that offense.
I think wide receiver is going to be the pick. I had T. Higgins going 20th to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I still think they address the wide receiver position. I think they go with KJ Hamler, wide receiver from Penn State. Mm-hmm. Again, they're looking for a number 2 man. That number 2 receiver position has been a revolving door, and I think they definitely know that. They're not typically a team that's going to go out and make moves with free agency. That's just typically what they haven't done that over the course of the last, really as long as I can remember. So I think for them, I think their biggest need right now is a number 2 receiver opposite of Devontae Adams, and they need offensive playmakers because they also lost Jimmy Graham. So I think Hamler is going to be the pick. I think they need an opposite, a wide receiver opposite of Devontae. Number 31, NFC champion, San Francisco 49ers. This is their second pick in the first round. Where do you see them going?
Pick is in. San Francisco lost some players on defense, particularly on the defensive line, and I feel like Ross Blacklock is the pick here, defensive tackle out of TCU. You had him going. Did you have him going somewhere?
Yeah, I had him going early in the first round to Seattle. I had him going to Seattle. 27th pick.
Yep. Played a lot of nose tackle. Can rush the passer. Fits right in with the Niners.
I think they go defensive line. I think they're going to take A.J. Epinesa, the defensive lineman from Iowa. I think in terms of edge rushers, I think he's the second best edge rusher outside of Chase Young. And I think with them losing DeForest Buckner, we're going to need some help on the defensive line. I think Epinesa is going to be the pick at 31 for the Niners. Rounding out our round 1 mock, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, 32nd overall pick. What say you, Patches?
With the 32nd pick, the final selection here in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs taking DeAndre Swift, running back out of Georgia.
All right.
This is my first running back off the board. I know he's not the top-rated running back in this year's draft, but I feel like he fits Andy Reid's offense more than Taylor or J.K. Dobbins. You can see him being utilized in the passing game a lot more. He's more of a pass catching running back, and he could break out. He could break up big chunks on the ground, screen plays, things like that. I think Swift fits in that Chiefs offense really good.
I think with Kansas City offensively, they're about as good as it gets. And even at the running back position with a guy like Damian Williams, he's proven to be really, really good for them. Defensively, they were a little inconsistent. Obviously, they came on pretty strongly at the end of the season, especially in the playoffs. I think they addressed the cornerback position. I think they go Trevon Diggs, cornerback from Alabama. He's big, 6'1", about 205. He's a guy that can really, he's a physical guy. He's got some speed. They go up against a lot of fast wide receivers in the AFC. He's got a lot of big time receivers in the AFC West that they go up against. I think Trevon Diggs is going to be the pick for KC. I think they shore up that secondary for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
There you have it, guys. First show back in a few weeks. That's our round 1 mock. We're going to be back next week with a draft recap. And we're going to go over episodes 3 and 4 of The Last Dance and any other news that pops up over the next few days, we will definitely address it. We want to thank you guys for sticking with us. We hope you guys are staying safe. We hope you guys are washing your hands, wearing gloves, wearing masks, practicing social distancing.
Social distancing, yeah.
We will see you guys next week. And thanks for joining us on the Front Runners podcast. Peace out.
Hell of a show, man.
Yes, great show. Good to be back,
great.
man.
Hell
I'll
yeah.
see you next week, buddy.
Peace, bud.